Fight for 15. Have you heard of it? Many cities, counties, states, and federal government officials, as well as citizens, are fighting for minimum wage to raise to $15 an hour from the current $7.25 an hour. Raising the minimum wage up to $15 an hour may sound great, but have you weighed the costs that come with it? After extensively researching this topic, I can say I have the knowledge to tell you the downsides of dramatically increasing minimum wage. Almost, if not everyone listening here, has had, or will have a job that pays minimum wage. Knowing this information may help you understand why increasing minimum wage is a poor choice. The increase of minimum wage is a poor decision that has many negative impacts on businesses, prices, and people. For your benefit and contemplation as to why you should believe that raising minimum wage would be a poor choice, I will be discussing the cons that come with the increase of minimum wage, including the inflation it has on consumer goods, how it negatively affects businesses, and the negative effects it has on the working people. First, I will be discussing with you how the increase of minimum wage is a poor decision because it leaves inflation on consumer goods. People work so they can pay for the wants and needs of their everyday life, such as consumer goods. But if minimum wage were to be increased, the prices of these material everyday wants and needs are going to rise with it. According to Lane's 2017 online article, What Happens When a Higher Minimum Wage is Enacted, Raising a Price Floor on the Price of Labor, a source claims that restaurants and other firms, when faced with the increase of minimum wage or labor costs, will almost always pass them on to their consumers. As stated in ProCon's 2015 article, Minimum Wage Pros and Cons, a study found that if restaurant employees' salaries went up to $15 an hour, the price of food would raise 4.3%. Another study found that coffee prices went up 6.7% when minimum wage was raised to only $10, and 10 to 20% when raised to $12.25. Imagine the price increase if minimum wage was raised to $15 an hour. Skirk's 2017 online article, $15 minimum wage will substantially raise prices, claims restaurants and other businesses are having to pay higher wages with the increase of minimum wage. They can only pay higher wages if they raise prices. Customers, not business owners, pay that cost. Are you willing to pay that cost? This is the price you could pay as a consumer. Now I will be sharing with you the negative impacts that businesses face with the increase of minimum wage and how it affects you. From small businesses to chains, businesses face issues with the increase of minimum wage. According to the previously mentioned ProCon source, 60% of small business owners believe that increasing minimum wage will hurt the majority of small businesses. Based on Bradley's 2017 online article, The Federal Minimum Wage in Brief, businesses with smaller profit margins will not have the ability to lower their profits to meet the increase of minimum wage for their employees. In brief, smaller businesses will have trouble staying in business. Companies can also be faced with big decisions when minimum wage is increased. WEN's 2019 article, $15 minimum wage plan has some Illinois businesses looking across the river, informs a lady who owns a small business in Illinois right next to the border of Iowa is thinking she might have to move her business to Iowa because of the impending raise of $15 an hour minimum wage in Illinois. She could also stay in Illinois, cut back on staffing, which she needs, and raise prices. She knows that if she does this, she's either going to have to pass the price on to her consumers or take a hit on her business. She can't afford to do either. The aforementioned pro-con source states the raise of minimum wage can also affect large businesses and chains as well. Stores such as Walmart have been forced to close several stores and cancel new ones because of the increase of minimum wage in their area. A fast food chain claims that if federal minimum wage was raised to $15 an hour, they would be forced to close close to half of their restaurants and fire thousands of their employees. Businesses shut down with a significant increase in minimum wage, leaving you with less options for obtaining your wants and needs and diminishing the jobs that were available to you. Now that I have discussed what problems businesses face with the increase in minimum wage, I'm going to discuss the effects it has on workers. The working people, especially young working people, can face a large problem when faced with the increase in minimum wage. According to Kalinkowski's 2016 online article, The Effects of Minimum Wage on Youth and Income, increasing minimum wage can reduce the employment of and create unemployment among young, unskilled workers. The previously mentioned pro-con source claims firms aren't willing to pay many young employees minimum wage, let alone a higher set minimum wage. In Millsap's 2018 article, How Higher Minimum Wage Impacts Employment, states there are fewer employment opportunities for these young workers, especially during a minimum wage increase. This is shown in Mulligan's 2009 New York Times online article, The Minimum Wage in Teenage Jobs, which features this graph, which shows a decrease of 8% in young youth employment within the last increase in minimum wage in July of 2009. Within 3 months, it shows an 8% decrease in employment. The aforementioned Kalinkowski article explains that a 10% increase in the minimum wage averagely led to 2.9 to 10.5 decrease in the employment of young workers. Keep in mind that raising the minimum wage up to $15 an hour would be more than a 100% increase. The previously mentioned pro-con source mentions that companies may also look for other ways to fill positions of employees than pay a higher set minimum wage. Robots and automated systems are being looked into by many companies. This can be a threat to about 8.7 million workers in the industries of wait staffing, cooking and food preparation, and cashiering. An example of this would be like the self-checkout lines at Walmart. Companies also see outsourcing as another alternative to paying a higher minimum wage. 2.4 million jobs were outsourced in 2014, with 44% of companies claiming they did so to reduce wage costs. Think of it this way: why would a company pay more money to have a job done by a person here when people from other countries as well as machines can do it just as efficiently and for less? Even if you aren't fired, the increase in minimum wage can lead to other negative side effects. As stated by Stanley's 2019 article, Negative Impacts on New York's $15 Minimum Wage kicks in and citizens aren't happy, employers can respond by cutting hours of their workers, and many do. The previously mentioned Lane's article says, earning more money now can stop you from moving up the ladder within your company later because they are already paying you more money than they would like you to earn. And according to Berger's 2019 article, nearly 3/4 of economists say $15 minimum wage is a bad idea. It would also eliminate the pathways of non-minimum wage employees from moving up the ladder as well, because companies can't afford to pay them more either. Minimum wage increase has people bargaining with their jobs and therefore their money, the opposite effect most intended to have. In conclusion, increasing minimum wage comes with many downsides. The increase of minimum wage is a poor decision that has many negative impacts on businesses, prices, and people. As discussed, it leaves inflation on consumer goods and has a negative effect on the business of businesses, as well as people's careers and livelihood. Because it clearly comes with many downsides, I urge you to take the stance and believe that raising minimum wage up to $15 an hour would be a poor decision. Sure, the pay sounds great, but are you willing to pay the price that comes with it?